The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air has always been synonymous with all things cool. When you think of the show, for most people, the first things that come to mind are the Carlton dance, the OG and iconic dark-skinned Aunt Viv, Jazz getting thrown out, Jeffrey's constant sneak disses, or the killer fits Hilary and Ashley were turning out. And of course, you can't forget the main character, Will Smith, the Fresh Prince, in all of his eccentric and patterned glory. Will Smith puts the fresh in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Yes, I just did a title drop. One of my first childhood crushes, but also one of the first and few times I really cared about the styling of a male character on screen. Not only did he subtly influence my appreciation of fashion, but his style had a cultural influence that has clearly been felt for years. Born and raised in West Philadelphia, Will Smith is a teenager who moves in with his rich aunt and her family. I don't know why I phrased it that way because they're all his family, but it's important to know that he's related to her by blood and not Uncle Phil. In the predominantly white upper-class Bel-Air, after an incident he was part of in Philly, we immediately see the contrast in their worlds illustrated sartorially. Will is a lover of hip-hop and hip-hop culture, very vocally pro-black and proud of his authentic street persona. You can see how different he is from his three cousins, especially Carlton, who Will always clowns for how he acts and particularly dresses, with his buttoned-up country club style aligning more so with what Will feels like are white people and the overall Bel-Air culture as opposed to black culture. To really grasp why Will's style not only worked but was incredibly transformative to television at the time, we need to understand the foundation on which it was developed: hip-hop fashion. Because hip-hop is more than a genre of music, it's a culture, the styles associated with it are nuanced. These styles existed long before hip-hop's creation in the 70s, but because of early artists who started getting attention, it quickly created the association. There isn't a single individual that can be credited with starting hip-hop fashion, but rappers and DJs brought their own styles to parties, styles that were influenced by their upbringing in urban neighborhoods such as Harlem or the Bronx. In the late 70s, it was all about flamboyance and pushing the boundaries. Bright colors, theatrical outfits, Adidas tracksuits, and sneakers, specifically superstars, Congo/bucket hats, and oversized gold jewelry were all staples of hip-hop fashion that bled into the following decades. The 80s ushered in the b-boy/b-girl styles, streetwear, logomania, and Afrocentrism, the latter two being pioneered and embraced by designer and innovator Dapper Dan. At the time referred to as bootlegging, this was his way of incorporating the high-end haute couture labels of Louis Vuitton with streetwear silhouettes such as jackets or hats. Looks like these were symbols of class and status for rappers, because that's what wearing designer represented. Afrocentrism in hip-hop fashion was meant to highlight rappers' celebration of their heritage. Remember that hip-hop music wasn't necessarily mainstream or respected at this point, so it was still inherently rebellious. Artists kept notes of the flamboyance of the 70s with the addition of African prints and kente cloth. The 90s introduced us to gems that still go in and out of fashion today: Koji brand sweaters and parachute pants. Let's all thank Biggie and MC Hammer for their contributions. Oversized tees, baggier pants, sportswear, sweaters, specifically with the rise of Nike Air Jordans, puffer jackets, plaid, Timberland boots, army prints, and of course as much denim as possible. This was the time when MTV really brought hip-hop and hip-hop fashion to the mainstream. Music videos were used as a tool of expression and creativity, showcasing that the use of fashion in hip-hop was integral to its storytelling. Cross Colors was also a very popular black-owned brand that highlighted hip-hop fashion, which came to be after noticing the market for baggy jeans. As the brand found popularity, they also found themselves on the radar of Fresh Prince's costume designers. Will's authenticity is what really helped us relate to his fish out of water narrative. His outfits never felt like costumes or a character he was putting on to stand out, nor irritate his uncle, despite what he may have believed. The first outfit we ever see him in perfectly captures everything we need to know or will come to learn about him. He's a bright light in the monotonous Bel-Air environment, or to some of his relatives, a grease fire that just won't go out. An early sign of how much he values his personal style was how he chose to wear his school uniform, opting to wear the blazer inside out. The funkier red interlining fabric, consisting of blue and gold paisley motif, was closer aligned to the pieces Will would have hanging in his closet. Bel-Air Academy was a place where he must remain more buttoned up and follow the rules, but this simple act helps highlight his ability to compromise with his new surroundings while never losing sight of his individuality. His signature style followed heavy stylistic beats of real-life rappers like Run DMC, LL Cool J, and NWA, and hip-hop fashion, at times taking the outlandishness a step further. To say Will loved a bold color would be an understatement. Regardless of the garment or outfit, a constant love of his was playing with color. From monochromatic to mixed match to clashing, this was his domain. One of my biggest gripes with current male costume design in particular is the lack of expression and exploration when it comes to color. Flamboyant seems like a bad word, a do not in bold lettering, as opposed to an instrument that should be practiced and perfected. He didn't just wear bold colors that were safe for men, like red, green, or blue. He also wore neons, pinks, and purples. His wardrobe adopted lots of striking patterns, loud button-ups, oversized printed tees, parachute pants, oversized overalls, and a wide array of sportswear, just to name a few staples. You also can't forget his killer signature accessories, snapbacks, and sunglasses. His impressive shoe game consisted of several Nike Jordans, Tims, and Docs. Naturally, as he matured, so did his style, adding vests, flannels, polo shirts / long sleeves, and more knits to the mix. Will's presence on the show was obviously necessary in order to make a statement on cultural and class differences within the Black community while creating a dialogue. Some outfits did this more subtly, while others were directly referenced. Two more subtle examples come from the episodes The Fresh Prince Project and Mistaken Identity. In The Fresh Prince Project, during his first night, Will puts on his suit for a fancy dinner party being thrown by Vivian and Phil. We see him wearing a bright printed tank top. It looks like it's an African print, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. His black suit jacket over top, bow tie around his bare neck, black slacks, sneakers, and a cummerbund around his chest like a strapless bra. This clearly mortifies Uncle Phil and plays into the stereotype he associates with hip-hop fashion and, by association, Will. Will comes across as intentionally rebellious, uneducated, and attention-seeking for no good reason. The fish out of water narrative is on full display with this outfit, even as he's trying to merge the two cultures. Mistaken Identity is the episode Will and Carlton get pulled over and accused of stealing a car, aka the racism episode, even though they do tackle race throughout the show. We're only 6 episodes into the show by now, but every single character's style is well established, and we get to see the heavy contrast between Will and Carlton's. Carlton is wearing a button-down Argyle sweater and clean tailored pants. Will is wearing a neon-colored track jacket, shirt, and bright printed parachute pants. In the mind of a racist or a Black person in denial, aka Carlton, one of them is who you'd expect to be profiled and the other to be left alone. The episode never explicitly says it or points to either of their outfits, but it's a way of showing that regardless of fashion, how you choose to present yourself, or how much money you have, there's no difference to racists. All they see is someone inferior to them that they can and will treat poorly. How I Spent My Summer Vacation contains Will's most polarizing look yet, according to Uncle Phil. His hair is styled in, God forbid, some twists, and he's wearing an oversized denim set resembling a prison uniform, completed with a denim bucket hat, but that doesn't stay on for very long. Surprising to nobody, Uncle Phil wants Will to get rid of this look because it's much more provocative than what he's used to already seeing on him. Will makes a really interesting point. What's the difference between him wearing these twists and a prison uniform inspired ensemble to Phil wearing dashikis and an afro in the 60s? Of course, Uncle Phil responds that his stylistic expression was making a cultural statement. And Will's choice to start dressing like this, seemingly out of nowhere, is just trying to draw attention to himself for no good reason. This showcases the hypocrisy in older generations, whether intentional or not. Whether he agreed with it or not, the symbolism of prison uniform-esque attire worn by members of rap culture was a cultural statement. Will and Phil were from different generations, pushing against the same boundaries and weaponized fashion to do so. Because The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was created for the real-life rapper Will Smith, of course the impacts from both the actor and the character are naturally intertwined. Even in the late 2000s, when I first started watching the show, there were so many pieces that he wore that were still in fashion and I thought were the absolute coolest. The difficult task with contemporary costume design in particular is creating something that is current and of its time, but could also transcend the show and influence the masses. That's what I feel Will's style did. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was so much fun to make because I have been rewatching The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air lately, and I'm getting my wisdom teeth out this week, so I'm probably going to be binging it for the rest of the week as well. If you want to keep up with me, you can always follow me on my Instagram that is linked down below, and I'll see you guys in my next video.